Hi, today we're going to be talking about note-taking styles. My name is Tiana Parker and I am a TRIO academic mentor. And today we're going to be discussing 5 different note styles. So the first note style we're going to be talking about is charting notes. So charting notes is utilizing a chart to separate notes into columns to organize main points and questions, as well as details. And to the right, you will see an example of what charting method will look like. These are customizable, so you can customize this to your class and how it will be well used for you. And so we're going to talk about some pros and cons for this type of note. So some of the pros is that it's helpful in a course where you have to memorize facts, and also when you have to study relationships between facts. And then also this method is used to create relationships between topics and memorization of facts. And then some of the cons is that prep work must be done prior to class for this method to be effective. And then also it's difficult to know what categories to use to get the most out of note taking. I will say for this con, if you practice with this type of notes, and you will be able to kind of know easily what type of categories you need to get the best out of charting notes. The second one we're going to be talking about is Cornell Notes. Some people may know Cornell Notes really well. It's a system of note-taking that allows you to visually organize your material and quiz yourself. And so to the right, you see another example. And so you have the notes column right here. So you write all of your notes that you would normally, like a typical note type of style. And then on the other side, you write down main ideas, questions, also like study prompts that will help you. And then at the bottom you write down a summary of like what the notes were. And so it's kind of a good way to help you present questions to yourself to kind of memorize what you need to know. Also you get the traditional type of note taking, and then you also get a summary so you know why these notes are important. So we're going to talk about some pros and cons. It's easy to turn this type of notes into an outline, and then they're also easy to organize. And then some of the cons, you have to give this some thought, and sometimes it may be more than what a person is able to give, as well as some concepts. They're hard to pinpoint versus details, and so you have to be very intentional when writing these notes for them to make sense to you sometimes. And so the next topic we're going to talk about is mapping notes. And so mapping notes naturally organize notes, and they're important for info from the chapter. And so it basically gives you a skeleton of what your textbook actually looks like from chapter to chapter. And so some pros and cons. It's easy to understand these notes. They're very straightforward, and you don't have to read through fluff to get to the main points. So some of the pros and cons for these notes is very easy to understand. You don't have to go through fluff to understand, okay, what's the main concepts that you need to know. And it's easy to use for courses that are based off of memorization. And so some of the cons, it's easy to overcomplicate with complex topics. So if you have a really difficult class that you're in, you may have a bunch of subtopics, and it can be very hectic when you're doing these type of notes. And then also you typically need to have another type of style of notes to get the most out of mapping. And so that's another con that you may have to deal with when using these type of notes. Okay, so the fourth one we're going to be talking about is outline notes. And so these are something that's very easy to organize, and you're using info from the chapter or a lecture, and it's another type of note-taking style that forms a skeleton of what your chapter of your textbook should look like, or even a lecture, what the information that you get from like PowerPoint slides. So we're going to talk about pros and cons for this one. It's very easy to review, very straightforward. You don't have to really edit these notes that much. you do have to, for cons, you do have to have a lot of, give a lot of attention to these notes for them to be effectively used. And then also, it's difficult to use if a person is going too fast in lecture. The last note-taking style we're going to be talking about is sentence notes. This is the traditional type of notes that most people use, but sometimes some people have different styles when it comes to sentence notes. But really, you just space lines to separate thoughts, concepts, and ideas from one another. And so it can look like similar to writing a rough draft for a paper sometimes. So we're going to talk about pros and cons for this one. It's easy to get all the information, and they're really great for traditional lectures. But some of the cons, it's hard to review these notes because you have so much information. Some of the information is not needed at all. And so you might have to do some restructuring of these notes. And then also, it's difficult to take away main concepts and also distinguish from small details. So you really have to go and edit these notes afterwards. And I would say probably do it within 24 hours, or it's easy to forget what was discussed in lecture, and it can be very confusing. And that's all. And so I have our social media account, and so follow us, and thank you for watching.